All right. Good evening. Welcome to what is going to be first of a two-part series on an early 2007 trip I took around the Albany capital area. I think I've mentioned some of these before. Actually, I'm not. Yes, I would have. Between 2000, so in 2006, 7, and 8, I had a friend attending Rensselaer Polytechnic. I had more than a little free time and a bunch of holidays off from work. So I would go up there, and I got a good foundation on area signaling and railroad stuff. Of course, it's still back in the at the tail end of my hokey pokey digital camera era. So I've had to redo a bunch of the photos in subsequent years. And so, of course, some of the stuff I wish I'd gotten better coverage of. But this is sort of, taking off of where I was going. So for anyone who forgot, or if I hadn't talked about it in past trips, the way that they would go is, for example, this one was over President's Day weekend. I would have come up on probably either the Friday or definitely the Friday, maybe the Thursday, but let's just say the Friday. I would have come up on Amtrak connecting via New York. Then we would have had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I would have returned on Monday, or maybe I would have returned on Sunday and had the Monday off. I can't quite remember what I did, but either way, I had a number of days to do stuff with him. So we're going to start with some stuff on the NEC, not a lot of photos, and then we're going to go to our first destination where there's some confusion of where it is. This would be CP 187. This is the point on the former Conrail Boston line where the Amtrak Post Road branch splits from the Boston line proper. Back in the New York Central era, this is where the original main line through Albany, which then became the passenger route, would split from what then became the Selkirk branch. And I will show people where that is on the map when we get there. And then the second part will mainly cover a quick outing to the Hoosac Tunnel, the Western Portal, and then the return trip to via the Empire Service and NEC. So I went through it. We should be good to go here. All right, starting off, this is back in the period when Amtrak, for the brief decade or so where Amtrak had business class on the front of head end of regional trains. This allowed me to, at the cost of an ordinary ticket, be able to go and get rear-facing views of anything I'll use the term newsworthy. By newsworthy, I mean any new stuff on the NEC. I could go and I could, for most of the trip I wouldn't have to do this, but for anything that was new, I could pop back there and get a few photos and come back. So we're starting out here in Philadelphia. I think I still have it up. Oops, not really. So the first bit of NEC news, only 15 years later, was when Amtrak re-signaled North Philadelphia Tower, which I've talked about before. They also redid the bit between the old Zoo Tower territory and North Philly. This would have been left unre-signaled. There had been some old weirdo former limits of Zoo, but then turned into block signals in this part of the NEC where you just passed Mantua interlocking. Mantua was part of Zoo. It's the part that extends over the Schuylkill River here. It's coming up to CP Park there, but that's the freight line underneath it. I'm not sure why you can't seem to be able to get Mantua to pop up there. But it's located right in there. And then between there and North Philly, there was a bout of really bizarre old signaling because North Philly only had 2 high signals in the eastbound direction. So you'd have approach slow it was there. All the tracks were 261, but they had dwarfs for reverse movements at North Philly, so any reverse running train would have to get an approach slow. Anyway, all of that got wiped out in this brief period, this brief section of trackage, and it was replaced by two modern type signal bridges with colorized position lights. This was my first attempt to grab here. This one's located under Cecil B. Moore Avenue. In fact, I really need to get out there at some point to get some photos, because they're accessible. There's actually pretty good views available for anything with a zoom lens. Not the greatest view here. This signal took the number of there was a single. What is it? A single signal on track 4. I'll point again. I'm sort of all over the place tonight, but hold on. Let me pull this up. There you go. So here we are coming. This is the old zoo before they Mantua'd it. And you can see that there's like an extended limits of zoo interlocking right there. That was on a table machine, not the Model 14. These things right there on track 1. Track 0 is now the Trenton line. When they ripped out the Trenton line connection, they made that one, that there, and that there were were existing automatics. So this one right there would be 268 or 286. Got my diagram here. Pull this up. Sorry, 866. It's under Montgomery Street, not Cecil B. Moore. Yeah, it's right. I think it's right there under 290th. Oop, no, it's not. Where is this? Oh, there it is, right there. And that is Cecil B. Moore Avenue. Okay, so it used to be Columbia. It's listed on. It's funny. It was changed to Cecil B. Moore, who was a local civil rights leader and councilman from Columbia Ave. But my 2009 NJT diagram still has it listed as oh no, it is listed as Cecil B. Moore. Oh, sorry, the 1992 thing has it listed as Columbia. So it is 686. Again, sorry for the delay here. And here's the old intermediates. Again, there was one signal bridge between the old limits of Zoo and North Philly. This was it. And you can see this is just after it had been decommissioned. The signals are bagged but not removed. These were amber, as as Amtrak was probably aware that they were going to, re-signal this. Now, the reason it was replaced with two unidirectional ones is just because the short signal blocks. That way, a train coming out is leaving the old zoo area, it gets that signal, entering the long zoo, Mantua interlocking, leaves Mantua interlocking without an exit signal, which the PRR tended to like. And then that distance from the start of Mantua to that first signal bridge, that's about one good block. But you don't need one. But going the opposite direction from the home signal of Mantua to that would be too short. So you can see right here, there's Mantua, and then there's that signal bridge. If we go to a distance measurement, that distance between those 2 points is only 1,000 feet. But if you go all the way to the other end of Mantua interlocking, which is right here, it's half a mile. So that's probably about the minimum you want for a mainline signal block. And in the opposite direction, or coming inbound, so here's the old signal bridge, which is right here. That's 1 mile, and the new one is right there. So it's about 1.1 miles for trains heading west. So this is going to be the, if I can find it, there it is. Oops. Oh, I have it right over here. This is the 861 signal. All of this was tended to be signaled and interlocked in about after around 1918. I'm not sure if it went from semaphore, if it had those tombstone type position lights, but this was electrified for Chestnut Hill West suburban operation shortly after the Paoli line. Oops. The reason these photos look like they're sort of dim is because, to get up to Albany at a reasonable time, I was usually taking quite early trains, especially in winter. This probably would have been something on the order of 7, probably would have left at 6 a.m. or so, 6 or 7. So this is pretty early in the morning. And here is the new signal bridge for westbound movements covering all the tracks. I can't exactly explain what the situation with the snow was that day. How long ago like the storm had been, or how cold it was. Snow was a little bit more common even 15 years ago. So again, this is 8:59. What the hell? We have a little bit of and here we have a slightly better view of this. Again, this is my second gen digital camera. I would have purchased it in early 2000 or late 2006. That's right. So this was one of the first outings for this camera. Again, I've been skipping around all over 2007. I just wasn't quite caught. Wasn't salient on this earlier one. So the first the camera would have been about 3 months old at this point. But the 10x zoom on it was quite the advantage compared to my old camera. So the next new thing I wanted to catch on the NEC that year was the changes they'd made to county interlocking. Unfortunately, it's amazing how time flies, because I thought that this was quite a bit later than it actually had taken place. I just need to go and pull up my charts here. There it is. Okay. County was an interesting thing in that it remained effectively unre-signaled until it remained effectively unre-signaled until 2006/7. By unre-signaled, I mean, unlike a lot of the other interlockings on the NEC, county was not controlled by a single tower with a Model 14 or other electromechanical lever machine. It used a USNS Style C unit lever, it looks like, think of a CTC machine with a little toggles. Only in this case, it wasn't CTC; it was direct wire. There it is. Wow. What's funny is this North American Interlockings page has usually doesn't have an exterior photo of county, but does have an interior photo. This is it in, let's see if there's a date on it. I don't know. I can't quite see if there is one. And this is a fantastic, 2007. So this is right when this was taken out of service. So it was already out of service by February, so this is clearly out of service. But although there was not an operator here, I can 100% bet that this worked. Like, you could sit down here and you could start doing signaling stuff as late as 2007. Davis Tower in California has a similar setup, although the panel's in the basement. I mean, again, I can't tell immediately today, but for a while, a bunch of these things that were controlled like this, Round Out in Illinois is like that, because and a lot of the stuff on the New York City subway, you can come in here and they did pull the little toggles off the thing, but you can come into a setup like this because it's this controlled an all relay plant, and you can just put a brand new front end on this. Cola Tower got this fate, and it was closed in '86, but the signaling stayed on until 2012, outlasting even this guy. So I can't say if a guy could have come in here and sat down if they hadn't disabled this, but effectively there's nothing really technically stopping this from functioning until 2007. And from the fact that there's phones and calendars and a chair, really tells me that this model board was functioning until the end in 2006. So anyway, here we have the post 2007 bits of county. You can tell because the signals are double round. They got round on top, round on the bottom. Just what Amtrak went through a little bit of a time where it was having trouble sourcing those position type PR type lower heads, so they just went with round on round. I think they've stopped doing that, but for a time they were just going with double round. So here we have the. Are they going to tell me what switch that is? I really wish they would. Oh, there it goes. Oh shoot, they aren't telling me. Dang it. I really wish they would tell me what this A switch is and what the B switch is, because that's hard. One of the switches is when you only have one half of it, it's sort of hard to tell if which one's A and which one's B, unless you know for a fact. And this stupid diagram I have, well, it's a good diagram, but it doesn't have that information. The A and B is really hard to pick up on, and it's really irritating when you don't have it. This is the 12 switch, though. I'm going to just say B because I'm going to go A closer to New York, where milepost 0 is. And then the 54 switch is the one going off into the yard. For those of you who don't know, county interlocking is where Amtrak's local zone starts on the corridor. This is the Jersey Avenue station. So they have there's a zone of service that terminates here that allows trains originating to the west to generally run express from either New Brunswick or all the way starting at Princeton Junction. And here we have the 23 switch. Amtrak, shared also with Metro North, have a track-based numbering sequence for their interlocking switches. There's, you can see county too. The old county. It has the sign. It's a. You won't even think it's a tower. It's an unobtrusive cinder block building. It has the county sign on it. The tower would have been behind those doors right there. I can't exactly remember when. I can try to dig it up here. Hold on. I was going to say I can't exactly remember when it went into service. but this will tell me. Let's see. Yeah, see USNS Type C machine. Interesting. So the track chart usually would have you when it was built and stuff. For all I know, it was the revision is 1963, but that seems a little odd. Anyway, this isn't being super helpful, and I'm not going to go. I don't have my Triumph books here to pull it up. Yeah, so it's definitely one of those things where it took me a while. I remember not seeing that every day and not realizing that was the tower, that building there. I probably should be looking at what I labeled these back in the day. They also reorganized county's layout a bit. Usually you have the first two switches and then the two middle crossovers in the other two. County sort of moved it around a little bit. At least I think they did, but I could be wrong on that. To move the 34 switch before the 32. But this is the one that we're looking at right here is the 23. Oh, anyway, yeah. So like I said, oh man, I'm not getting the good. Amtrak uses tracks. In this case, the starting track furthest to the west is the first number, and the track that it's going to for a crossover is the second number. So the first one was 12, but the opposite one would be 21. Whatever. And then here we have the 32 switch. So that one right by the tower was the 23, and then the opposite direction is the 21. Sorry, the 32. And then we have the new signal bridge. Now, county, like I said, one of the reasons that I said that, I should have known something was up, was that county was the last location on the NEC to use limited speed triangles. I definitely know the distant signals had limited speed triangles. I think county itself had limited speed triangles. For those of you who don't know, you can go read my blog post on the topic. But limited speed triangles were a method to upgrade turnouts from 30 miles an hour medium speed to 45 mile an hour limited speed without having to change the signaling logic to display a flashing signal. That way you could upgrade the switches and affix a yellow triangle that would then change the signal and change the signal indication. There are a bunch of them in Canada, but just the drop in the price of flashing relays really made them rare in the U.S. The only ones I know of are at Bryn Mawr interlocking on the Harrisburg line, and then these were the last ones on the NEC. And that should have tipped me off to this interlocking not being re-signaled, that it was still running off of the original relay logic in the tower. The fact usually when they don't touch things like limited speed triangles or amber signals, that's an indication that that it dates from the way back, and they don't want to touch it. So we are jumping all the way ahead to we are jumping all the way ahead to CP 187. Sorry, something's looking a little weird here. Okay, so sorry for the. Let me just check if I'm actually going to check to see if anybody has any questions now. Live, blah blah blah. No, the tower's going to be fine. It's a crew base. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff going on at County. Okay, late 40s is what I would expect. So late 40s would be, so most of the NEC towers were rebuilt during World War II. They were, I don't know what they were before. I assume they were wood or wooden brick or whatever. They were almost all rebuilt between 1940 and 1944. If you go look at all those interlocking charts, you can see the dates of Midway, Morris being like the first, that was like 39, and then like Milham, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. It was a big thing for World War II. County being installed in the late 40s just indicates that whatever the reason was that it didn't get done during World War II, maybe they moved stuff around or had to expand the yard or something, that they sort of, at the PR, I guess it had passed the point where they were sick of putting in Model 14 machines. Okay, anyway, this is, we're jumping ahead here. We're jumping ahead all the way up. This first part's it's gonna go slow and be fast. So first off, the Boston and Albany, aka Conrail Boston line, aka I'm not acknowledging anything that CSX calls it. It is what it says on the tin. It goes from Boston to Albany. It kind of competes poorly with the Mass Pike because it's A, limited to 60 miles an hour, and B, as I tell people, it moves like a sine wave across the strait. There it is, up and down and up and down, and now it's going through Springfield, and then it's going back up again all the way up to here to Pittsfield, and there it's going back down, and then it's going back up, and then it's going back down, and then it goes way up. It is nuts. Because it's got to follow it's got to go and follow the crazy terrain there. That the Mass Pike really doesn't. I mean, this is just, there's the state line, and it's going up and down and up and down. Like that's just weird. So in the 1920s, before the 1920s, all Boston and Albany would run down here to Albany. You know, that's what it is, Boston and Albany. There were then two drawbridges, a passenger drawbridge there and a freight drawbridge there. Then it would crawl out of town on the 4-track main line. This was the infamous quote-unquote, West Albany Hill. I would make fun of the New York Central here for not being able to climb up a hill, but it actually is. I've been there. You can see in that little trench, that's where the West Albany grade is. When you're on it, it's actually pretty, you can notice it. It's not like no horseshoe curve, but it's stiff. You know, they would often have like a switcher or something push the trains up. Anyway, that whole area right in there was super congested. And part of the 1920 Roaring Twenties improvement program was the construction of the Selkirk Branch, Selkirk Yard, and the Alfred H. Smith Railroad Bridge. That would allow freight traffic to completely avoid West Albany Hill and the busy passenger terminal in the Albany Rensselaer area. The old main line eventually is now currently known as the Amtrak Post Road Batch. It's a very interesting history. During the Penn Central era, because the only thing that used it was passenger service, Penn Central actually ran out one night and ripped it up. forcing Amtrak trains to going to New York to pull out onto the Alfred H. Smith Bridge right there over the Hudson River, back up, down to the Hudson line, and then go to the Albany. That's got to add like, half an hour, 40 minutes, who knows, to the ride. I mean, honestly, the New York Central, my friend did a chart on this, was actively running down freight service prior to the Penn Central takeover. And I say running down, they added padding time all over the place. They reduced the speeds. And when Amtrak actually took over and removed all the padding time, the Lakeshore Limited, or what is today the Lakeshore Limited, went like 2 or 3 hours faster immediately, because New York Central just wanted to abandon the service, and they were actively sabotaging it. So when the Penn Central ripped out this line, Amtrak went and complained to the, to FRA, ICC, and the ICC made him put it back in. Today, the Post Road branch, I'm not sure if it's got to be. I'm not sure if it's included in Amtrak's lease, but it's got to be. This line goes. Only sees 2 trains a day. The Lakeshore Shuttle. It is, and I'll talk more about it, but it's a fascinating little bit of railroading, and it comes off of the Boston line here at the old junction, which is today known as CP 187. So the reason I'm gone to the map was because back in 2007, Google Maps, what I'm showing you right now, wasn't quite as good as it is today. Some of you might remember in the early days of Google Maps, large swaths of it were at a very, very low resolution, which would, make it pretty much impossible. You could only basically see where the roads were and some basic stuff. And as far as I knew, the only way to gain access to CP 187, or that I could tell, was to park here under the thruway and walk .9 miles in each direction to go reach it. Now, to my friend's credit, he was down with this. He was part of the outing club, and he wanted to get some experience using snowshoes, because it was about 6 inches of snow here all over the place. So this would have been miserable just walking it. But he was nice enough to be like, hey, I checked out the snowshoes. So we're going to snowshoe our way all the way. We're going to just walk a mile in snowshoes all the way out there. Now, again, we knew when the Lakeshore was due, so it wasn't in the picture. So here we are coming. There's CP 187 all the way right there. They're the mass signals. And now this is back around in the time where CSX is starting to really go rip on the old New York Central signaling. So I'm in a panic, and I just wanted to go out there and get some, see what I could do. This is just about me really starting to do more systematic signaling stuff. And so this is approaching it. That's the Boston line that goes to Selkirk Yard, and the right, what I'm walking on is the Post Road branch. Here we have another view, a more zoomy view of that. All right. Sorry, just trying to get this right here. I'm not sure what that thing in the middle is. It's definitely an active signaling thing, that little cabinet there. I have some hunches, but I don't want to break into it right now. One second. Okay, so as you can see here on the another reason I wanted to go out there is that I knew that CP187 had Michigan Central small target searchlights, or Conrail era small target searchlights. Is where most, so the Boston line was re-signaled in the early 1990s. It was a double track Rule 251 line that in Conrail's ultimate re-signaling guys. I won't say it's its ultimate, but it's pre-ultimate, it's penultimate signaling strategy. First off, they went with you stay with what the original railroad had. Then they moved to small target small target searchlights, and then they moved to a combination of the typical Conrail G head to or not that, but target signals, color lights, to cab signaling, Rule 562 cab signaling. The Boston line was their first experiment on this, where they took this Rule 251, DT double track Rule 251, and they made it largely single track, and they went cab signals without fixed waysides. The first thing since the Conema line, and here we have your little C-board with a searchlight for clear to next interlocking, and fully descriptive wayside signals. Now I don't think. Shit, hold on. Just realized that, oh, hold on. Let me see if I can grab a Conrail interlocking chart here for Albany division. I think that they have them. Interlocking charts, because I could really use an Albany division right now. Pittsburgh, Reading, Youngstown, Buffalo. Nope, no Albany division. All right, forget about that. Duh. So another thing that you're going to notice is that I didn't take a lot of signals. That's why that's why I'm doing this. You're not going to be subjected to. You're not going to be subjected to like 500 photos of this. But I am going to. But I did have to come back 10 years later to do a full survey of this. Anyway, the cab signaling actually starts at CP187. It doesn't start at Selkirk. It starts here, and up until at least through the Conrail era and up the pre-PTC era, the Post Road branch was also 261 no cabs. So an Amtrak train would be cab signaled. Let's say the eastbound Lakeshore would go on cab signals at Chicago line CP169. Be cab signaled all the way through Schenectady and Albany, then it would go off cab signals for the 10 miles of the Post Road branch, and then go back on cab signals all the way to Boston. You would think that with Amtrak and wanting to use access for how now currently then it would go off cab signals again at Framingham and be off cab signals all the way to Boston. Sorry. because the MBTA portion did not have cab signals either. So it was on, off again. At this point, the MBTA section has been fully cab signaled at Rule 562 for access compatibility. I don't know. I don't think the rest of it has access, but I need to figure out what's going on with the Amtrak portion. If they left that little island there not cabbed or not, because it just seems wacky that they would want to do that. I can go and check on the thing here on the overhead to see if I can see any transponders. Yes, and it looks like there's new signaling up. Oh boy, interesting. I gotta go back out there. Oh yeah, that's been resignaled. Ooh boy, yep, those are the stupid goddamn CSX Darth Vaders. But I do see a beacons there for access. So let's just go in and see. I'm betting that Amtrak, and I feel bad. I could never find where the wayside signals were on this line. There weren't that many, and they weren't that interesting. But now I'm going to feel really dumb if I sort of like let some easy. And when I say they weren't interesting, the ones on the Amtrak line were Conrail new color lights. They weren't searchlights. But the weird part is like I can't see where they would be. Normally you would expect to see access transponders. That's the huge giveaway for where the signaling points are. Anyway, I just put it low priority on my thing here. But it'd be interesting if Amtrak actually did go and cab signal this. See, that looks like where there would be one, but I don't see the access transponders. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna not do that right now, and I'll go look for myself later. I went way more than 2 miles there, and I could not find another intermediate location. That post road branch is definitely how the signaling works on the post road branch is very is quite not altogether obvious. Anyway, haven't even done the first set here. But again, it's a shame that I should go and post. See, I don't have any good photos of it, but I can definitely go and post things. So here's this interesting. Oh, so you'll see this in a little bit later. But sorry. And here's the. So if you're wondering why the eastbound Selkirk branch, or actually it's still the Boston line all the way to CPSM. So it's Boston line and Post Road branch. If you're wondering why the eastbound Boston line branch has 3 heads and this one has 2, I'm pretty sure that even though this is Rule 562. That the next block is short, so trains would have gotten a medium approach medium, even though there's no intermediate signal to approach at medium speed. Conrail did a better job in its 562 implementations, where they started identifying the signal indication points better. And that's been carried over with NS explicitly having cabinet huts that's a sign that says SIP. So that makes a little bit more sense in case you get a medium approach medium on a wayside. And then you know where that approach median, where your cab signal is going to change. I'm sorry if I'm going slowly on this first set of photos here. This might be a long night, but I can go a little bit fast. So there's a lot. I was just out there, and I realized that I had a lot more to talk about on this than I thought I did. So once I run out of topics, it's going to be a lot of dead air. I still can't believe I walked a mile in snowshoes to get out here. And I do have some photos kind of that. So then here we have the, just looking east through the interlocking. The Amtrak line sees just enough traffic to, keep the rails visible, but the Selkirk branch really sees the majority of it. Yeah, definitely a thick thing. I said I'm not going to go through. You said you're lucky it's not like up to my modern standards, because for everything like a tri-head like this, I think I calculated it out. In every direction, I'm taking like 6 photos: a full one, just the signal heads, an upper, a lower, each one usually narrow plus wide. So it's like 10 photos per thing. Nothing I could ever hope to have enough to narrate over. If you're wondering how they used that extra searchlight for the C lamp, it's just they just have a fixed blinking light in there with a lunar white filter. They just had those available, so when they ripped out all the waysides, Conrail had more than enough of those searchlights to use for that. And they'll even use those where they had more modern quote unquote Conrail signals around. You'll see, with color lights, they'll still stick that little searchlight up there. Now CSX doesn't do that. But Conrail did just because they had them. Even a marker light's going to be 4 figures for, because it's railroad, safety critical railroad kit. Well, I'm glad I went out there in 2018 to get a full survey of it. That definitely justifies that decision. Oh, that's right. I never finished the story. So, like I said, we went out there and we hiked our butts off. The reason Google Maps mattered was because 10 years later, when I wanted to go back, I realized that there's like a road and you can drive directly to the interlocking and nothing will stop you. And that's what we did. I just drove there and you can park right there. So we totally did not have to walk that 2 miles in snowshoes. I mean, it's good cardio, it wasn't even cardio, but it's good good endurance whatevering there. Oops, what am I doing? Oh, that's what I wanted. Let's see. Yeah, here you go. There's the car. Right there. There it is. You can just drive there. I think that's the most egregious example I've ever had of getting to an interlocking the hard way. Mainly because the time I really started getting involved with this, I was, Google Maps was way better for overhead to let you plot a course in. Although there have been on occasion, I think I have subsequently found better ways to access a point. Usually, again, after I've done something ridiculously hard, and then I find on the exit that there's an easy way, a better way to have gone through that. Honestly, though, I would. So actually, I'm gonna take that back. I said that these would probably display medium approach medium, but in hindsight, I'm betting that this tri-head exists to display red over green over red, medium clear, and red over yellow over red, medium approach. There's a lot of situations where I think, especially in cab signal territory, where I'm all like, they're going to see a medium approach medium there, and then all you get is a medium clear. That was probably just the same mast was there in the New York Central CTC days, and Conrail just didn't want to change it for whatever reason. I had a similar situation on NJT where it was on the Atlantic City line, where you literally have back-to-back interlockings with wayside, no 562, and they only give a medium clear. That's because the cab signal can it's sort of an informal 562. You go over medium clear, and then the cab signal stays approach medium, and you divert and you go over medium clear again. Conrail had that. No, they had a different. Sorry, that wasn't the thing I'm thinking of. Here we have the Conrail era relay hut in the combination of Core 10 weathering steel and brown paint. It's been affixed with a CSX style satellite dish. I'm not sure what the CTC code line for this was in the Conrail era. I figured that by the 90s it would have been verging on fiber optic. Conrail loved dropping fiber optic around. But if it was, I'm not sure if CSX just didn't want to use the fiber, if they were using leased phone lines or what. I don't know what this is. Huh. It's like I have to go back and look at my own. Okay, there's an auxiliary hut there. Don't know what this was for. Could be a radio base. Do not know. Kind of looks like a radio base. Let's see if it's still there. It is still there. Alright, it's probably a radio base. Maybe I noticed it in, yep, there it is. There's the radio base. Oh, there's two huts by that in the Yep, it's there. It's the old hut and the new hut. And I always thought like this Conrail was not scared of short signals like this. So again, this is again I'll talk about it in just a second. I could probably assume what this signal number would be. I know how the other ones on the line tend to go, but I'm not gonna bother because I've already made the decision. So this is the neat bit. I love this picture here. Of just how you can see. So Amtrak actually, because of their, it's a higher speed operation. Amtrak has the straight route. If you're on the lake shore and you go this way, you don't slow down to get onto CSX or former Conrail. You just blast right on at 80 miles an hour, or what should be at 80 miles an hour. Because I don't know if Amtrak runs they should run the post road at 80. I don't know if they do or not. There's nothing that should stop them from running that at 80. But there's way more traffic, so the wind just covered up the post road rails where the Boston line and the switch is clearly set for the Boston line is generally clear. And then here we just have a zoom-on view of the switch set for the again, it's Boston line both directions, but it's really set for logically it's set for the Selkirk branch. I'm also looking at the rather minimal nature of the point heating there. That's pretty pathetic. That's not a lot of point heating, especially for upstate New York. Looking backwards, again you can see the Amtrak stuff has been generally snowed over. Oh, this is where you can sort of see how we've been walking on the line with the snowshoes. We walked over the rail because that gave you footing. That was the easiest way to the snowshoes kept you on top of the snow, but going by the rail helped as well. So there's the rail we weren't walking on, and there's the rail we were walking on. You can see how we've snowed it up a little bit. That's a result of our trek out there. God, we walked 1.8 miles unnecessarily. And then here is that westbound Mass signal. right, let me check questions here. Oh, man. Okay, so here's what's up. The live stream videos for people who want them to be up, they are up. But they don't, so the way I generally had done it was that I left them unlisted until I got other sorts of video. Like, okay, I'm not Mr. YouTube monetization complaint guy. YouTube algorithm complaint guy. I go with the flow. I sort of did it in a way. I've sort of noticed more recently that I might have been doing it like I might be sabotaging myself. So, at the risk of something, I will probably start making these unlisted sooner. Mainly, I didn't want to have people come browse into my main page and see the latest thing be a live stream, which I'm not. There's nothing not wrong with a live stream, but I wasn't trying to lead with live streams. But I was also trying to release more content in batches because a lot of my videos are smaller. They're short, they're clips. So I would usually save these for when I had smaller batches and just release it all in a go, to make like a potpourri of content to come out all at the same time. But I'll see what I can do to put these out. Just to remember, they will all the live streams are released. I said I just used to do it. I would used to batch them with the smaller stuff, for good or for ill. And I'll usually do these first, so you should be able to get notifications and stuff. But if you don't see one, it's just, don't worry, they are coming out. It just, I didn't want to do them once. I would wait till I would get like a whole set of them, and then I'd put 5 out all at once. So they all are out there. They're under the live tab of the video. And if you think there's any you missed, you can go find them there. You can also contact me in any way, like leave a comment, and I can always send you the unlisted link if you want to watch it early. And every so often there is a reason, like I need to go. I accidentally, I don't know, have something up on the screen like personal details or whatever, or I need to go and edit something out. It's rare, but every so often that happens. So that's another reason that I don't put them up immediately. Here we have the C lamp. This is for Rule 280A, clear and external locking. The invocation of Rule 280. Clear, I think, is actually Rule 281. The reason they went with 280 was the old manual block clear. So this is a version of manual block clear. It's sort of a super clear. Trying to think how to do this up here. Interesting enough, Amtrak's access system can enforce rule clear next interlocking if there is a cab signal failure. So, in theory, Amtrak trains can suffer a cab signal failure without suffering a PTC failure. That implies that they can proceed at 80 miles an hour with a cab signal, but not PTC and a failure. I don't know if Amtrak does that, but normally a cab failure or whatever these days will drop you down to 60. Which is just garbage. I don't know if I think I bet I deleted a bunch of these. Oh, that's not the westbound mast. This is the this is the Boston. Oh shit, this is the eastbound mast. All right, and then this is the post road mast. Okay. Love how that C thing is all shot up there. Yeah, real classy upstate New York. And here we are. So that's it. That's all the pictures of CP-187. I rolled out there. I got that amount of photos, and then I came back. Today, like in 2000 and in 2018, when I returned, I took this many photos, starting there. Keeps going. Up, more. Actually, I want to see if they fix the heating there. Who knows? Oh, more, and more, and more, and down to there. So, interesting enough, every time we go out there, so in 2018, I did it in conjunction with rolling out to the museum at the Springfield Armory. Oh, it was an awful day, like rainy, and oh, just so much rain. It was just pouring. I wanted to see the new Union Station at Springfield, but it was just awful that day. Sorry, I'm just looking at some stuff here. Huh. Did I catch a train at Albany? I mean, at Saratoga? Sorry, Schenectady. I didn't think I did. But it looks like I did. There was one time I used to never be able to catch a train at Saratoga because on Sundays the southbound Niagara Falls Empire train would run too late in the day. But this time, because it was in 2018, because it was President's Weekend again, or no, it was MLK Weekend. They ran that train. They ran a different schedule on Sunday. They ran a Saturday schedule, and it looks like I caught it there, but. Maybe we did catch it there. Yeah, this is when they were rebuilding the platform for the new station. Okay, sorry about that. That was a little digression. All right, let's see how we're going to do this here today. I don't know. So anyway, you can again see how we're walking on the rail. There's your untouched post road branch rail, and there's the one that we snowshoed down. All right. So this is milepost 188 on the. This was effectively the Amtrak. It was still Conrail Post Road branch, but I think that Amtrak has got to be in. Amtrak would do the maintenance, and it was jointly dispatched out of LAB Tower because it had no interlockings on it. Like LAB would, LAB would talk to the. It was, would the CSX dispatcher route a train down it or not? And they would probably talk with LAB Tower for that. And there's the New York State Thruway Bridge right back there. So I'm guessing that we got on, like, did we park there? I don't know where we parked. Oh, I think that there was a place where, like, yeah, I think that, like, the truck had, like, shoveled something on there, so I could have been looking back that way. Snow photos are nice. They really did reduce the size of the JPEGs. That's my buddy. I'm cutting this one because I don't need random photos of my old college friend in there. Sort of superfluous. But anyway, so a neat part of the Post Road branch is that because it sees so little in the amount of traffic, and it does so little that uses it, that has remained jointed rail. And like the, and I can't say, like, I don't know if the old, it's sort of like the Raton Pass line. If you don't have freight on a line, you don't need a lot of maintenance. And both here and on Raton Pass, it's jointed, but it's smooth. It does the clickety-clack little bit, but you don't hear, it's not the bump, like you got the PRR mainline got. And it's just fascinating, especially when you zoom down it. You can see that it's all jointed rail. And they're the snowshoes right there. They're not the old school ones that look like tennis rackets. They're sort of new lightweight ones. They're way what is it? Anticlimactic. Here we go. This is just an example of the Thruway Bridge and snowshoeing it. It's like, I guess this would be like milepost 180. Oh, it counts up. That's right. It's like one. Yeah, I guess it's 188. Yep. So that's what we did. We just hiked down the rail for, multiple for a mile out and a mile back. Can't believe we did that. Let's see if we can see the car here. Nah, I can't really see it. Oops. And this is another example of a rail joint. You can notice there's a little bit of the wear and tear appearing. I have no idea if they've gone ahead and I can go down and do a street view and actually see if they've done the thing, the installed continuously welded rail. Okay, here we go. So that's the last of that stuff. So that was just the morning activity. Now this is going to be like 3 photos and we're done here. I totally forgot it. I can't believe that I've forgotten about all this stuff. that day, we then continued to drive to Middletown, Connecticut, because to go. I had some experience. I had some stuff there with schooling and whatnot, and we just guess we had nothing better to do, so we just drove to Connecticut that day. There's a reason I went. I labeled this as a road trip. It's actually not that bad to go all the way out there, and. There's not much rail stuff to do in Middletown, Connecticut. That's Hartford. That's not even Middletown. The only claim to fame, there's a couple claims to fame. One of them is being the Argonne Bridge, which I think was, it was like won some award for being the most aesthetically pleasing bridge of 1936 or something. But anyway, this is it overlooking a Christmas tree farm. Let me see how many of these photos I get. Okay. Yeah, I have no idea why my friend agreed to do this. Like, hey, let's go do 2 miles of snowshoeing, and then let's drive to Connecticut. It looks like we went and drove around the old Connecticut Valley Mental Hospital. I recognize that fence anywhere. I did some urbexing of that at a point in time. You had some good views of the valley there. Unfortunately, the main urbexy bits of the CT Valley Hospital got demolished. So the place so there's the bridge right there. We would be taking those photos from somewhere over here. Maybe that was where the Christmas tree farm was. Can't entirely tell where that first one would have been. The second one would have been somewhere there. See, I think it was right around there, the basketball court and the tennis things. The abandoned section of the hospital used to have this really nice thing from the 1890s. That got leveled. But this building there from the 30s was still up, and then as well as this one. This is the one I was able to get into. I could have gone to the other one through there, but at the time I didn't. I was by myself, and I just didn't want to deal with it. Here we have the east span. It is I believe it is a continuous truss bridge. I don't think this is an arch, but it might be an arch. Let's go and find out. There's a fine line between continuous truss and an arch, like the Francis Scott Key. I'm pretty sure is continuous truss, even though it looks archy. How do I spell that? This is only the third bridge over the Connecticut River. Oops. There's the 95 bridge. I mean, when I say road bridge, there's the 95 bridge. Then there's a drawbridge halfway up. And then there's this one, and then the next one above this is in Hartford. There's not a lot of bridges over the Connecticut River. It's really wanting. It is through arch. Okay. Yeah, it did look a little archy. What are the two spans? 2 by 660 foot. Sort of like the Coney Palmyra era. Okay, here's another interesting thing. So, like, again, oh, by the way, the day got a lot nicer. I gotta say, I gotta give it credit for that. It went from just awful, as you saw, to really nice. These are the underrated or not well known or whatever you want to call them. Let's see if they have a term for them. So anybody who knows their architecture and high-priced Manhattan or New York City real estate is generally aware of brownstone. Almost all the brownstone that you think of as brownstone came from two quarries near Middletown, Connecticut, and it was last mined in the 1930s. Well, it was last effectively quarried in the 1930s when a pair of hurricanes swamped the site. So not only is it only from single sourced, that source hasn't been available since 1938. All efforts to drain the flooded quarries have been unsuccessful. One theory is that the floods opened underground springs, making it impossible to effectively drain them. However, there has been minor quarrying for architect. You can do limited scale, but again, I don't know why he agreed with. Like literally, we drove out there. I showed him a mental hospital and some quarries. And you can see there's your ice. It's all flooded. ... So we're going to do a little bit of coverage of the Hoosac Tunnel, and then we're going to leave the rest for tomorrow. That just gets us to the midpoint. The reason I thought of this is I was just out there to the Hoosac Tunnel area this week, and when checking up on the photos I had previously taken in 2007, I realized that they were definitely in need of some redoing. Thank you all for continuing to watch. I think this is going to be the last set of photos. Yeah, so as I said, in 2007, you had some docks, you had some... they were doing a thing where they would deploy an airbag onto the lake, and then they would cut out chunks of the brownstone, and then from that it would fall onto the airbag, and then they could go and use that to do repairs to valuable homes down in the New York City area. Um, yeah, so these are, it's something I get, look, going by today, it looks like there's quite a boating enterprise with all of those docks in there. Maybe is that, I'm not sure if that's a summer camp or what. That's pretty interesting. I was told when I was visiting them with a knowledgeable local, it was basically like, yeah, don't go swimming in there. There's all sorts of like steam cranes and cars and stuff that have piled up, and you've no idea what's underneath the water. I think the depth of this went down some crazy amount of crazy number of feet. Blah 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 blah. Did it tell you how far down they went? Oh, new use, current usage. Plans. Okay, zip lines. Oh God, there's a water slide apparently in 2007. Kayaks, canoes, trampolines, windsurfers, wakeboarding. Yeah, it's turned into sort of an impromptu water park, I guess. Town purchased the historic quarries and 42 acres adjacent land. Quarry's been leased for development and recreation center. And it's a park. Cool. That's not looking like it's... whatever the heck that thing was. Whatever that was, it looked better back in the day. Brownstone Adventure Sports Park. Oh, there you go. Oh. Huh. I wonder what that place used to be. Doesn't look too active now. Wow. Brownstone. You know, wow, look, there you go. It's got like people there and no parking signs and everything. No clue what that place used to be. Maybe I have to go back in time. I can catch it being open. It's like a vinegar distillery or something? I'll investigate it later. But Bitymar. Oh, maybe it's like an asphalt. Oh, it's an asphalt plant. That's what it is. Got it. Okay, cool. That solves that one. Well, that's a really neat bit of adaptive reuse there, turning into a water sports adventure park. All right, here we are on to the Hoosac Tunnel portion of today's events. I guess today I get to talk about the Hoosac Tunnel a little bit, although I would prefer to do it next time. But the photos are here today. So like I said, I told you the main route, the Boston and Albany, has this sinusoidal thing, crosses the Berkshire Mountains through some sort of pass in this area there. I think that's where the drainage divide is. Yeah, it comes up there, something happens, then you're in Pittsfield, and then you're in New York City. The Boston and Maine wanted to take a more northerly route here. Now, again, it wasn't the Boston Maine at the time. It was other railroads. And they surveyed it through the Greenfield River, which then just sort of like stops. And then there was no good way to get over into the Hudson River drainage divide, despite the fact that you had a really nice valley here and a really nice valley here. You just couldn't get over this mountain. in any reasonable way. So their plan, the 1870s, they went about and dug, I think it was going to be the longest tunnel in the United States at the time. It's definitely the longest tunnel east of the Mississippi at 5 miles. It made pioneering use of nitroglycerin. This was before dynamite, so they had to use nitro. I think they would make it on site and freeze it so it wouldn't explode. It's so long they had to build a central ventilation plant that also allowed them to build the tunnel at four directions. They dug the central. They started tunneling at either end. They dug the central shaft. Then they could do it in 4 ways. It used novel surveying techniques with surveying towers over the mountain that are still the ruins of which are there today. It's a really neat place. I'll talk about I'll see what I can do about it. But the way you get there is again, this is the way I went there today. Is you go, you take Mass Route 2, and it's actually you can navigate there because it's been marked on Google Maps. Hoosac Tunnel East Portal and the West Portal. You can basically just tell your Google to navigate you there. So you're going to hear me use the words Guilford Rail System a lot. That is what that was what the railroad was called before the crazy owner changed it to Pan Am. Since I really don't like railroads trying to be airlines, I'm just going to stick with Guilford Rail System. It's also what I had been labeling Guilford Rail System as, so it would have created a break in my labeling scheme. It's the Deerfield River. If I said Greenfield River, I'm sorry. Another interesting thing about the Hoosac Tunnel is that it briefly used a 25 hertz electrification system as a helper type of thing. And you can still see 3 of the old electrification pylons are still there today. Fortunately, they have not been torn down. I can't remember if I've been there, if I came back to the Hoosac Tunnel West Portal the second time. Something tells me I did, but I can't remember. But this is called like River Road, or it's always called River Road. Yes, it's always River Road. I'm like, what's this crossing road? River Road? Yep, it's River Road. Today, so at a certain point, NS got involved. So NS wanted to get in on the action at the Port of Boston, so they were able to purchase some trackage rights over the Guilford Rail System from Mechanicville, New York, to the big intermodal terminal at Air. The joint venture was labeled Pan Am Southern. You might have heard about it. Blah blah dot dot dot. Back in this day, that didn't quite exist. This was pre that. So another interesting thing, I might refer to this. This was known for a brief period of time. The Guilford Rail System, even today, it had a pretty substantial main line. The Northeast is bigger than you think. It briefly bought or controlled the Delaware and Hudson. and they established a logical, what they called the freight main line, that stretched from some portion in Maine 715 miles to Sunbury, Pennsylvania. Eventually, the D&H was brought into the Canadian Pacific system, but the Guilford had done all this work rechaining it, so CP still uses those Guilford mileposts as opposed to the original D&H ones. Generally, railroads don't like rechaining things. It doesn't really get you much. But the Guilford guy, because he's crazy, he went about and did that. The Guilford rail system owner is quite of character. He's old now, and he wanted to cash out. That's why he got sick of it. But you know, he's both. I mean, he's a hoot. But yeah, usually railroads won't rechain, and he went and did that. Probably because he had grandiose dreams of creating this unified 700-mile main line. Maybe it qualified him for some sort of weirdo funding. But nah, he went and did that. You can see the date there of 1877. I think that's when it was. I'm not sure if that opened for service or when I just got hauled through. It took multiple years to really get that thing going. The Hoosac Tunnel to this day is plagued by drainage problems. In 2000, it suffered it suffered a collapse 300 foot from the west portal, and it's had multiple collapses during its tenure. It has major ice problems. Again, it was the way through, and there's just this isn't the west where it's all dry. The Hoosac Tunnel is just sopping with water. This drainage thing actually goes up and over the tunnel, trying to drain water away from this side of the portal. And here we have the east portal. When I went back there wasn't as much snow on the ground, but there was a ton of ice in the tunnel. You can see a little bit right there. I'm betting that when you have this sort of warmer temperatures, instead of the ice staying on the surface, it turns into rain and goes down and then freezes in the air. The tunnel has a lot. You would think that tunnels don't have ice problems inside, but there's a pretty consistent west to east wind flow that brings freezing temperatures inside the tunnel itself. So that's what gets it. What leads to icicles and ice formation deep into the tunnel. I think we can see the two of the three catenary things. And here we have the westernmost of the three catenary poles. If you go on to the old Wikipedia page for this, you can see they have a vintage photo of the catenary of the electrification system when it was in operation. I thought they had a better one here. You can Google them. This is the west portal. Man, there was a lot of stuff in there. I was just there the other day, and you can see all this crazy junk all over the place. There's like no trace of the old catenary poles. It's just interesting how that stuff sort of just vanishes. I thought they had one right at the mouth. Yeah, there you go. You can see. Oh, it doesn't make it any bigger. Yeah, you can see how they're not single I-beams; they're little TPs. But when they cut them, they had to build that extra thing in the back to keep it up. Oh, that's right. They used the other side of it to keep it up. Clever. And oops, there we have our tunnel portal plus the cat pole. Sort of weird there. Not sure where the tunnel's tilted. Probably because I'm using a wide angle lens. There you go, that looks better. Yeah, the day got nicer. All right, let's see if I can get finished up before the 2 hours hit. Here we can see CPF. So the Guilford guy, I'm not sure if the D&H used this system or it was just the Guilford guy and his craziness or what. The Boston and Maine or where it came from, but the former Guilford rail system uses a prefix code for by line or subdivision or whatever you want to call it. So the freight main line, it would be CPF and then a milepost. So this is CPF 415. Because this is close enough to the interlocking, I'm going to just go with the interlocking as the location point here. Here we have the Deerfield River looking northward. It goes up to a reservoir or a hydro plant or something up there. Yeah, when I was there wasn't any snow on the ground. It did not look nearly as photogenic. Today, the line, even with the NS participation, only sees about 5 freight trains total. With the CSX purchase of... so, CSX purchased Guilford. The Pan Am Southern portion went to a G&W, of course, operated short line. It's still a joint venture with NS. But the issue is now that with NS got trackage rights over the Boston line, which has double stack clearance, so now the state's worried that that this route's going to be increasingly sidelined, and the state kind of wants it for competition and industrial development. So we're going to have to see what happens. The good news could be that that could put a stop to any near-term signal investment, but at the same point, it also makes it at risk for total signal removal. beautiful with the snow. Actually, when I was out there, there was a coating of snow, but not this much. Again, I wish I had remembered. Maybe I can look at some historical weather reports, but I don't know what the situation of how there was a storm. If there was snow down in the Philly area, something had to have gone through pretty recently. Even even 15 years ago, stuff in the Philly zone would melt pretty quick. This is gonna be our last photo of the day. Racing the beam here, but I'll have a few minutes to talk to people when I'm done. Most of the former GRS territory uses CP style triple searchlights, or three-headed searchlight signals. Whatever you have, you're going to get three heads. Even if only the middle head has an active searchlight with two reds, or the upper head has the only active searchlight. In fact, when they put in color lights, you can see only one head was active. But that was like Canada, they love having every interlocking has three heads, or Caltrain. CSX won't abide by that. There are a couple ones that only have two. I don't know how those got in there. Could it be a late model thing? And around MBTA territory, they might not use three either. All right. Let me double check that I got to the right place. Yeah, I did. And tomorrow we're going to have this was a little bit longer by a few. But tomorrow I won't have all the variety of spiels. And it'll just be sort of me talking about CPF 415 and the central vent plant and some scenery stuff. And then we can head back on Metro North through Harmon, and then Union Interlocking, which was facing its own slow motion resignaling catastrophe. Let's see what we got here with Peoples. Yeah, so the East Portal is accessible. You can drive right to it. The West Portal, you can drive kind of to it. I said I went there for the first time. The West Portal you can kind of drive to, but you have to still walk in a little bit more. It's more towards town, so there's a little bit more of a risk of. Oh, that's the substation. That's the substation that was there. Oh wow. Yeah, there was a brick building with all sorts of weird stuff in there, and that was the substation for the 12 kV overhead. Okay. Okay, this is only 4.75 miles. I thought it was full 5. But yeah, you gotta walk in. You gotta walk in quite a bit. There's a little drive. You can drive up to there, and you gotta walk in. It's also close to the town, so there's a slightly higher risk of someone bugging you. But we didn't notice that. Anyway, let's see if there are any last questions there. So, okay. Thanks for coming in. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Definitely the same time. If you want earlier, I might do it a little earlier too. It is a Sunday, so I might start at. I'm off on Monday for President's Day, but I might just start a little early at 9:15. I will post the schedule or what I feel, depending on what I feel like tomorrow. Does anybody have any preferences? If you want it 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, 9:15 or 10:15? That's Eastern. I know I have some West Coast people. All right, well, let me know. The chat will be active for a little bit. All right, I'm gonna cut this now, and I'll see all the listeners tomorrow. Thanks for coming in.